Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we transform your sources into the insights you need to know. Today, we are wrestling with a really universal tension, one that I think hits every professional, every leader, every creative out there. It's this gulf between ambition and, well, the reality of prolonged obscurity. We live in a world that basically measures significance by, three things: visibility, speed, and scale.
Right. If it's not public, if it's not fast, if it's not big.
It doesn't count. The message is that your progress just isn't real. And that pressure, it feeds this deep, almost painful anxiety.
The feeling that you're just wasting your time.
Exactly. That all those unseen years, the quiet work, the waiting, it's fundamentally wasted. The obscurity is some kind of detour you have to get past.
Yeah, and that anxiety is completely understandable, but the sources we reviewed show something fascinating. That trying to bypass that obscurity is, well, it's what creates genuine professional fragility. Yeah, the core problem, especially for people with potential influence, is that we are building our public skills, our platform, way faster than our private internal substance.
Can you break that down?
Sure. Think of it like this. You're building a massive, beautiful mansion, but you're rushing the time it takes for the concrete foundation to cure.
Yeah.
The structure looks amazing from the outside, but it just can't bear the load. So when your inner formation can't sustain that outer influence, the whole thing fails.
So your gifts, what you can do.
Your gifts outgrow your character, who you are. Your calling outruns your actual capacity, and then that platform you work so hard to build becomes the stage for, a very public collapse, or just a quiet, debilitating burnout.
Yeah, it's just a sobering picture. So our mission in this deep dive is to really reframe that. The sources are inviting us to see those seasons we try to escape as intentional.
Intentional preparation. They make this profound claim. Hiddenness isn't a delay tactic. It's the essential formative strategy. Yeah. And when you trace the pattern through history, especially in the biblical narrative, this rhythm is, it's absolute. There's this universal principle. Lasting influence is only entrusted after deep, unseen formation is complete.
Before proclamation, there's formation.
That's it, exactly.
And when you look at the case studies, the sheer amount of time is...
Yeah.
It's just surprising. Take Moses. We all have this image of him confronting Pharaoh, parting the Red Sea. The spectacle.
Right, the highlight reel.
But the sources remind us that before any of that, he spent 40 years. 4 decades.
40 years.
Tending sheep in the Midian desert. It felt like exile.
But it wasn't a penalty box. It was a crucible. I mean, think about what 40 years as a shepherd teaches you. It forges deep patience.
Well, those repetitive tasks.
In extreme isolation, yeah. It forces humility. Tending sheep is not a high-status job. And above all, it creates this utter dependence because you're dealing with elements you just can't control. That quiet, unseen labor was the necessary training ground before he could lead millions of impatient, rebellious people.
But 40 years. I mean, let me push back on that, because for a professional listening right now, 40 years feels like career suicide. In this hyper-competitive, metrics-driven world, doesn't that kind of delay just guarantee you become irrelevant?
That question gets right to the heart of it. The delay isn't a bug, it's a feature. Look at David, the future king. He didn't start his training in, diplomacy or military strategy.
Right.
His formation happened in complete anonymity in the shepherd fields. He was learning intimacy, yes, but also developing this raw physical courage. He was facing down lions and bears in the dark with no one watching.
No witnesses.
None. So his hidden victories against those beasts taught him resourcefulness, how to be calm under pressure, how to defend the vulnerable. And those skills, forged in anonymity, were the structural prep he needed to face Goliath and later, all the political chaos of being a king.
Without the character developed during that hidden time, the platform, whether it's a kingdom or a company, it just crumbles.
It crumbled.
And the ultimate case study, which the sources highlight again and again, is Jesus himself. I mean, if anyone could have skipped the line, it was him.
Of course.
Yet, he spent the overwhelming majority of his earthly life, something like 30 years in quiet, hidden faithfulness in Nazareth, 30 years of ordinary life, ordinary labor, before a 3-year public ministry.
It's incredible.
So the really provocative question the material raises should stick with you. If the ultimate example of leadership didn't rush visibility, why do we feel this intense pressure to do it?
The urgency we feel is, well, it's manufactured by our culture. this culture of instant broadcasting and perpetual comparison. We are just so deeply uncomfortable with anything that doesn't give us immediate visible feedback.
The metrics?
Exactly. We're constantly checking the metrics, confusing character with influence. And because of that, unseen obedience, that slow, quiet work of integrity, it feels not just inefficient, but almost like the opposite of success.
It feels like stagnation. But what we're learning is that hiddenness isn't a void. It's not an empty space on your resume.
It's a workshop.
It's a profound workshop. And the sources are so helpful here because they actually categorize the environments. They call them the 3 sacred workshops of the Spirit: the fields, the workshops of ordinary labor, and the wilderness.
So if you feel like you're in a season of obscurity right now, you're not in some hallway waiting for the real door to open. You're in a classroom. You're actively in formation.
Let's start with those shepherd fields.
Okay, so the fields. These are the environments that teach endurance and attentiveness. They're defined by these long stretches of repetitive tasks that have zero external validation. David wasn't just, singing out there.
He was working.
He was performing ordinary duties with integrity. He had to keep track of his inventory, the flock. He had to do risk management dealing with predators. He had to manage his own emotional state during intense solitude.
I love that nugget the sources offer. Ordinary duties, when you perform them with integrity, become extraordinary platforms for growth. So if you're doing a repetitive, seemingly mundane task right now,
filing, managing small accounts, caregiving,
editing the 5th draft of the same memo, that's the field. And the integrity you build there is what prepares you for the pressure of those high-stakes public decisions later on.
Precisely. And that brings us to the second workshop: ordinary labor, the workbench. Here, we see Jesus' example in the carpenter shop. For 30 years, he was developing skill, serving his community, meeting deadlines, perfecting his craft. He was modeling hidden obedience with no acclaim.
And his formation wasn't just theological, it was vocational.
Yes.
This is such a critical point for our audience. Excellence in the mundane is the training ground for an extraordinary calling. This isn't just about religious history, it's about business, administration. Look at the example of Joseph.
Joseph is fascinating because his early administrative skills were developed in 2 of the worst possible environments: as a slave in Potiphar's house and then in prison. In Potiphar's house, he got promoted because he showed this exceptional ability in inventory management and resource administration. Then, when he's thrown into prison, he doesn't just stop being excellent. The sources note he basically ran the place. He managed the other prisoners, organized their resources.
So he was practicing how to rule while he was imprisoned. He was running a small organization, the prison faithfully, without a title, without recognition, for years.
That's it. And that capacity for diligence and organization in these low-stakes, high-integrity tasks was the unseen training that made him capable of managing the food supply for an entire empire later.
His private substance was built by just showing up every day in a place he didn't want to be, doing tasks he didn't choose, but doing them with integrity.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the third workshop, the wilderness seasons. These are different. Their function is subtraction, not addition. Right. It's not about learning a new skill. It's about unlearning your dependence on external things. Think of Elijah, fleeing from Jezebel. He was isolated, validated by no one, stripped of his comfort, and the crowd that usually followed him.
Or Paul retreating to Arabia after his conversion. The wilderness removes the easy outs, the validation, the crowd, the comfort. It forces the soul into absolute dependence. It just strips away our performance-based identity.
You find out who you are really fast when no one's watching and you have nothing to prove.
And the profound nugget from that Elijah story is that he discovered God's presence and power wasn't in the spectacle he was used to: the wind, the fire, the earthquake.
But in a still, gentle whisper, the wilderness recalibrates our whole understanding of what significance is. It teaches you that influence doesn't have to be loud to be profound.
And that leads directly to the danger we all face, what the sources call the tragedy of escaping too soon. This is the risk of stepping into prominence before your heart is fully shaped and tested in those hidden workshops.
So premature exposure.
It's actually the very mercy we fight to bypass because we're so impatient, but it just results in that fragility we talked about. The principle holds: being must always precede doing.
The biblical examples of rushing are so cautionary. Look at King Saul. He was anointed. He had the office, the title. He had the gift.
but not the character.
His character was clearly unprepared, and because his formation was incomplete, he was just perpetually prone to these impulsive actions, sacrificing principle for expediency, and he eventually lost everything. His big public failures weren't random. They were the fruit of an underdeveloped hidden life.
And then there's Peter. He had phenomenal zeal. I mean, the passionate voice, the courage to speak up. But his maturity was way behind his gifts. He was constantly overpromising and then underdelivering under pressure.
Famously denying Christ 3 times.
Right. He needed that hidden work of humility and brokenness to solidify after that initial public failure. The pattern is just inescapable. If you neglect the hidden work, your gifts will accelerate faster than your character, and that just creates instability. So if rushing causes tragedy, and the world measures success with its metrics, what is the countercultural measurement? The sources label this enduring value, hidden faithfulness. They call it the only true currency of the kingdom.
Hidden faithfulness is measurable internally, not externally, and it has 3 core characteristics you can apply to your own life right now. First is consistency when motivation fades.
Okay.
Think of Daniel, who prayed 3 times a day, regardless of the political threat or, how tired he was. He just maintained the rhythm.
The second is purity when temptation is unobserved. This is Joseph, resisting temptation in isolation. No witnesses, no applause, but he prioritized his internal purity over instant gratification. That's the character that sustains a leader under massive public scrutiny.
And third is trust when the outcomes are uncertain. Abraham waiting decades for the promise of Isaac to materialize. That kind of patience requires a profound internal trust, knowing that the work you're doing now, even if it yields no immediate fruit, is counting in a deeper account. That slow, enduring trust is the work that can't be rushed. So, for the person listening right now, that countercultural currency, it translates into some actionable steps. Step 1 is simply to reframe your perspective. You have to actively choose to see obscurity, the lack of applause, the repetitive work, not as a punishment, but as an act of privilege, an intentional preparation.
It's the design.
It's the design. And step 2, practice solitude. The sources are very clear that we need intentional withdrawal, quiet space to reorder our desires. They call it affirmation addiction.
Yeah, that's good. We're so wired to the applause, the likes, the immediate feedback, that we need silence to detox and recalibrate our internal compass to the values of character, not the demands of the crowd.
And finally, embrace obedience in the small things.
The largest acts of influence you will ever perform are built on a foundation of faithfulness in the smallest, most ordinary tasks. Act faithfully in those duties without seeking applause, knowing that the most critical reward, the strengthening of your own character, begins internally. It's totally independent of visibility.
So what does this all mean for you today? It means the inner life, the quality of your character, your unseen disciplines, your integrity when no one is watching. It's not peripheral to your professional life. It's the core ministry beneath every other ministry.
What you become in secret, in the field, in the workshop, in the wilderness, inevitably shapes, limits, or sustains everything you release into the public square.
The final reframe, then, is in the metrics we use. The world measures success by visibility, speed, and applause.
But the enduring success, the kind that lasts and sustains both you and the people you lead, is measured by faithfulness and profound internal transformation.
Which raises an important question you should sit with today.
If visibility is not the goal, and if faithfulness in the quiet seasons is the ultimate measure, then you have to ask yourself, what if unseen obedience isn't just preparation for the real ministry or the real career launch, but is the real ministry itself?
Your hidden faithfulness matters more than you realize. Before you're entrusted with massive influence, you must be formed in hidden places. And what is formed there determines everything that follows. That's the deep dive for today.